Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Foresight TV. My guest today is Bernie McGuinness. He runs Journey, is it Journey Healthcare?
Yeah, Journey Healthcare, Journey
Journey
Skilled.
Healthcare. We met at Long Term Care 100 a couple of months ago. He did a presentation about some of the things he is doing to celebrate, to have fun with team members. I'm going to confess that I have not paid as much attention to skilled nursing in the last few years as I perhaps should. I have going to LTC 100 was like eye-opening. There are some people like you who are doing some amazing things. We're going to get into this conversation right after this. Hey guys, Steve Moran here. Bernie, welcome. I have to tell you, I remember sitting there as you were up there on stage and you started telling stories about this sort of caregiver Olympics and the prizes. And well, I'm going to not spoil the surprise, but I was like wanting to jump up and down in my chair and get excited because you are doing the thing that I'm so passionate about. And that's creating work environments where people love coming to work. I do want to come to your background and where you are, but let's start with some of the things you're doing. I want to dig into that because I'm still pumped up about it.
Yeah, so am I. So we just started this year's evolution of the event. So I'm just getting over our first summit last week. So we had this idea as an organization as we grew. How do we not just celebrate our care team and put it in our mission statement, vision statement, but can we create an event that brings that vision statement, that mission statement to life? And so how do we celebrate the role of a caregiver? I started in long-term care 30 years ago. So my journey began as a certified nursing assistant. I became a nurse, worked the floors, worked as unit managers, worked my way up through long-term care. And those are tough jobs. It's also an art. It's a skill to be a good CNA, skill to be a good nurse, right? So we wanted to celebrate that. And then also with from a business standpoint, we had just acquired 22 facilities at the time we launched it. And we acquired a lot of buildings in a lot of different conditions, but a lot of these facilities had a lot of agency staff. So we were able to eliminate that agency staff through some of our recruiting package, our Journey Advantage, which I know we'll probably get into. But we were able to say, okay, here's our baseline. We need to have all of our skills validations done, right? We have all this new staff, inherited staff. We have to make sure we can do IVs and wound training and that we have return demonstration. And so we upload all of those into our e-learning platform. Our clinical team under Jody and Martin, they took this challenge, they ran with it. We gave all the facilities a month to do like skills fairs, get everybody caught up, return demonstrations, have a theme with it, have some fun, celebrating skills that nurses and CNAs do each and every day for our residents. Let's celebrate that job at the facility. And so then once we could complete that and everyone completed their validations, each facility leader, ED and director of nursing, they got together with their team and they selected one nurse and one CNA to represent their facility against their sister facilities in a skills fair competition. So I always say it's the skills fair in the dining room meets America's Got Talent, right? So we have panelists and judges that came in last year to the event, just outstanding support from state associations to industry veterans and leaders, nurses, nurse practitioner groups, consultants, just an incredible outpouring of support from panelists that wanted to be part of an event, each paired with a nurse consultant. And then the nurses came in for a day, the CNAs came in for a day. Some of them, it was their first plane ride to the event. All the CNAs we met in Atlanta, all the nurses up in Indianapolis. It's the first time on a plane. All three of our CNAs from West Virginia. And they came and they got a new pair of scrubs with their name engraved in it, all etched and stitched. And, all of our vendor sponsor support, our vendor partners just rose to the challenge last year to help us launch this so that we could afford to put on a really nice celebration of their care. So they all arrive in town, they get it, all the sponsorship is there, make a big deal. Our chief strategy officer's picking them up in like a limo van and bringing them to the hotel, and there's a team greeting them with pom-poms and cheering them on, and then we all go to dinner. We sit there with the contestants, we get to know them, get to know their life, their life story really, and why it's meaningful to be there. And it's incredible how they're practicing their skills. They're getting ready because they don't know what skills they're going to be. So then they do 5 skills, like in groups of 4 or 5 people, and the judges are there and they're judged off of, execution of the policy procedure, the actual process to give an IV or to start a catheter or to provide a wound care to these pretty high-tech mannequins that you can do all these things on. And they compete. The judges give them a score on that, their bedside manner, and the timeliness in which they complete a task. And so then they do all their rounds, geared up, and we gave out prizes. They knew what they were competing for. Grand prize was a $10,000 vacation to anywhere in the world that they want. Second prize, $5,000. Third prize, $2,500. And the grand prize winner would receive a fully paid scholarship to nursing school if they so choose to go. So we did that at the Nurse Summit, and our winner, Kelsey, who you met at LTC 100.
Yep.
Our CNA winner and our nurse winner were part of their Rising Star program, and they got to attend and see that, and actually kind of changed her focus of nursing and long-term care and what she wants to do. And she's now taken her first home office position, actually, with us as she's pursuing her master's. And then the Georgia Healthcare Association, they were kind enough to host our event in Georgia, and we had 22 CNAs there from 6 states celebrating. We gave out our first place to Deja Shorter from Eastlake. She just huge smile, brightens up everybody's day second it happens. And she's been there, she cares, put in the work. You can tell she practices these skills each and every day. And you met Deja too. She was at the event, which what a great opportunity, right?
Yeah.
So they were out there, give out our prizes. And then the special surprise at the CNA Summit is that we actually gave a scholarship to each and every CNA, which is so impressed with the quality of talent in that room and their hard work, their dedication, their stories, that we wanted to support that. So we gave out 23 nurse scholarships in the first year of the program. And currently today we have 19 people enrolled in nursing school of those 23 that we are supporting. And we learned a lot from last year. We learned the need to have a foundation, a not-for-profit, that we solely focus on our care team members. So we deliver our scholarship winners and things through the foundation. We have wraparound services. We have crisis assistance, so we can be there for our care team members at a time of need. And so this led us to launch out Journey Forward so that we can live out our vision every day for our care team members. We can be there in their time of need. We can help further their education. We can provide some life training. We can just reinforce some of the benefits that we have that you kind of forget over time until you need it, whether it's our free telehealth, which I think is a great benefit, but underutilized by our staff. So that's kind of stuff that we launched Foundation so we could take that momentum from our first Skills Summit. And it was just special. I've been doing this 30 years. 2 best days I've ever had in long-term care are standing in those rooms with those 22 nurses and aides, their excitement, the joy. Everybody there knew it was just special to be there that day. And to hear their stories as it's continued throughout the year, and now to be able to do that, now that we've grown, we're at 44 locations. So we just had our Northern Summit for all the states but Georgia. And we're getting ready to do our Georgia summit actually on the 19th and 20th of this month. And then this year, we're going to have a final 10 nurses, 10 aides on October 1st and 2nd down in Atlanta at our headquarters there, and just celebrate it and do it again, hopefully with a couple extra surprises. But we did our first regional one in Kentucky last week, and just the emotion when the nurse found out she's going to make it to the finals. And I mean, it's just so special. And they had their DONs there. It's a really, I just think it's a great celebration of what it is to be a caregiver and why we should all be in this amazing profession. But, to give back, take care of people, feel rewarded and recognized for the job they do. We think that's living out our vision.
So I've got so many questions here. Let's do. I'm gonna play devil. So first of all, I'm a believer, so this isn't me. I'm gonna play devil's advocate here for a minute.
Sure.
It sounds like it's crazy, stupid, expensive, and a bother. I can hear other operators saying we could never afford to do that. How do you respond to that?
Listen, you have to know your bandwidth for your organization, but is there a way within your organization's financial constraints, the culture of your company might be slightly different? How do you tailor an event, though, that goes out and celebrates the care team members? Maybe you can't do it America's Got Talent style and fly people around the country, but can you do things locally? Maybe you've got a cluster market where some buildings could compete against one another. Maybe you go around and do the skills fairs in the dining room and give out a Starbucks gift card to someone who did the best job that day, and just support your buildings locally. There's a lot of different ways that I just want to see us put more and more focus on the actual clinical art of being a nurse, of being a certified nursing assistant. Not just they showed up and they clocked in, but no, they were a really good nurse. They were a really good CNA. That's what our family members and residents remember, are their favorite nurse, their favorite CNA, that one that remembers how they like to do their hair, the one that has that gentle touch when she helps her to bed, right? And understands which side creaks more and which side hurts more at 10 o'clock at night,
Yeah.
And they see everybody as a person. That's what we're trying to celebrate and continue to foster a culture where great care team members want to be recognized. They want to be a culture where everyone's held accountable, but being good at your job is celebrated. And it's something that we want to do.
Yeah, so I love this so much. My son-in-law has just decided to go back to nursing school, and so he's about halfway. It's an LVN, LPN to RN program, and he started into his clinicals, and he's been at 2 different skilled nursing, and it's like night and day. The ones he's at is operated by another speaker at LTC 100 that I was super impressed by. And he's with people there who love working, they love teaching, he's learning so much, and he's so enthusiastic about it. The other building, people had given up because the management had given up, and so I love this so much. Let's talk a little bit about your journey and how you got to be here as CEO. I know you mentioned that you started as CNA. There's got to be a story here.
Well, yeah, I mean, the story, like so many stories, is just fell into long-term care. I was 19 years old, really didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. Knew I wanted to be around people and help people, whether it was education or healthcare. I didn't know, but had an opportunity at summer camp, fell in love with caregiving, went back to a local nursing home in Yorktown, Indiana, and became a CNA. Really enjoyed that. Went to nursing school then following. And like most people's journeys along the way, I've had so many incredible people, be there, whether it's, your first regional or a first CEO that believes in you, or, that director of operations. And even when I became a nurse, that nurse who put me under her wing and kind of showed me the ropes of what it was to work the hall versus in academics and in nursing school, what I thought it would be. So that mentorship, I worked, a large national company at the time. I left there. I'd started as a CNA. I'd left there as an administrator over a course of 5, almost 6 years. and had great mentors and leaders, able to grow to a growing company in Indiana with 18 buildings. Started there, ran campus on the east side of Indianapolis, did some different things, became a regional director of operations, director of ops, vice president. And I left 12 years as senior vice president of ops and had helped, the company was at 78 locations at that time and helped, see a stable company over that type of time period grow, change, evolve, invest back into their property. So really got to see a strategy there. Went for my first C-suite position for a company out of Chicago that was expanding, helped them expand, worked there a couple of years, learned a lot of things on more mom and pop side, bootstrapping up, reporting to your lenders, reporting when things don't go great, right? How do you work through those issues? Nobody wants to fail. So how to work with everybody, more REIT relationships, landlords, financing, and then had the opportunity to form a company in 2018 on behalf of a New York real estate developer, the investment and capital commitment to starting and launching an organization with my co-founder, Don Time. We formed the organization, helped grow that company to about 47 locations when I left in 4 states. So I was there exactly 5 years as the CEO of that organization and wanted to go out on my own and pursue true ownership in an organization. And, with a couple buddies, there's 3 people that own Journey, got together, said, hey, let's talk through this, let's figure out what we can do. And, none of us are, coming from extravagant backgrounds, been successful in our careers, but this is our life savings. We're pouring it in together and betting on one another. And so we took our first building on in March of 24, a little 39 bed, all Medicaid building in Southern Indiana, didn't even have EMR. Right. And
wow.
Yeah, right. In 24.
That's amazing. I can't imagine.
No EMR, like internet, like there were 2 computers in the building. It was just it had been single owned for a long time, and that's hard to do. Right. Is. And so I think, we're able to live out our vision. Our vision statement is to change the world one heart at a time, because I believe that's what we do in healthcare. Yeah. We are taking care of people's families, and that's a real responsibility. Yeah. And when we do it well, we're changing people's lives and changing the world as a result. So, we focus on that with our care team. Steve, as you and I talked to LTC 100, that's our mission. That's our vision. I haven't passed a pill in a long time. I haven't given bedside care in a long time. But I want to make sure that those that do feel recognized, they have the tools, they have the training, they have the support, and we're attracting, whether we're in rural Georgia or Louisville or Cleveland or over in West Virginia, wherever we may be, that we're able to attract the best nurse and best CNA in that market. And then make sure that they're kind of happy at work, because I just believe happy staff are going to give better care. I really think it's kind of simple. We're people taking care of people.
Yeah, so I love this. As I was saying before we went on the air, a lot of my audience knows my stepfather's in a residential assisted living community, and they have a caregiver there. Her name is Ashley, who I love. They've got several people there who I really, really like a lot. But I was talking to Ashley one day, and I just happened to ask her where in the Sacramento area she lives. And she told me she lives in a little rural town that's almost an hour away from where this community is. And I was like, why do you come this far? Because there are lots of buildings in between. And she looked at me with this big smile on her face, and she said, look at this place. She just loves working there. She gets paid better. And so creating that kind of environment. So talk to me a little bit about your staff retention and recruiting. I know that in sort of talking to you and doing some research, you kind of see staffing agencies as the enemy, right?
I do. I think they're useful in certain times.
Yep.
But I don't think you're ever going to improve quality until you have, our goal is to have as consistent of staff as possible, right? I mean, for your own family member, you just mentioned, if you only met Ashley once every other week, you probably might not know Ashley's name today, right? And
That's
if
right.
you're having a different caregiver every single day, how do they get to know your loved one? How do they get to know their preferences and their routine? And all of those things matter. That's why it's an art of caregiving, because all of those things matter. Each patient, each resident is different. They're a different human being with a different life story, different preferences. And how do we create a culture where our staff really buy into that? So no, we come in day one, we see some, 1-star buildings transact a lot, right? Or buildings with tough survey issues. So we come in, and to get to the root cause of any of the clinical items that we need to address, we first address staffing. We first address, all right, we're using 60% of our staff, our agency staff. And then they're not showing up, or we're having issues, our survey issues are being caused by staff. And yeah, we say we're not going to have them back anymore, but whatever it may be. So we really tackle that issue right away. We have an awesome talent acquisition team that goes out there, start working the applications, start calling around, but we also arm our communities with the journey advantage. We believe that we have a whole employment package that can really, speak to different employees and different, care team members at what they need in their life. Maybe they're focused on the fact we have a full suite of supplemental benefits, or they really want to make sure that they can have affordable healthcare for themselves. So we have some HSA plans that we try and keep very affordable, or dental or vision, or we have free telehealth, we have free life insurance. We do weekly pay. We do perfect attendance bonus for our direct care staff that is significant. I mean, significant to show up to work, because I think call-ins are what kill the schedule. Next thing you know, we're using agency on a weekend. We had bad call-ins. Next thing you know, it's in here. And every time someone calls in, we call the agency before we try and get our own staff to pick up. And I just think our residents would rather see a friendly, familiar face that they know each and every day. So we tackle that first, so then we can train up our staff to tackle the quality measures and the outcomes and the survey improvement that a lot of our facilities are needing to achieve, and many have achieved. So
cool. So tell me about this perfect attendance bonus. It was one of the things on my list to ask you about. How does it work?
It's really simple. No strings attached. Show up to work this week for every shift. If you're part-time or full-time, however many shifts you were scheduled, you can be late one time this week, because we do it weekly, because we pay it every week. So it's for every single pay period. So our pay periods are weekly. So just don't call in this week, and you can make, significant dollars more, about 30% more an hour.
Wow.
Every hour they worked the entire week. If you call off, though, you lose that. And 30% of your, give or take, that's right around the amount. That's a significant amount of money.
Well, it is. And if you lose 30% plus you lose that day of work, that's a lot of money.
It's a ton of money. I mean, if someone wants to work full time during the year, I tell people all the time, if you're working on day shift, there's not a lot of buildings with day shift differential, right? So you just got it raised today. If you'd like to come to work to the job that you said you wanted, then you just got it raised today.
So have you ever, do you ever worry that you've got people showing up when they shouldn't show up because they're too sick or something like that?
Well, I think people tend to take care of themselves. We try and have access to the free telehealth so that they can have access to healthcare. Because a lot of our staff don't take medical insurance.
Yep.
In my history, it's somewhere around 30 to 40% of your staff take it. So that means the majority of your staff don't have health insurance. So providing some telehealth, giving them access to be able to go get a Z-Pack or get amoxicillin for their kids so they show up to work. No, we just believe people still are going to take care of themselves. We haven't seen that issue or had to really address that yet. It hasn't really occurred.
Well, and if it's every week, if it's not a longer period of time, then it's pretty easy to put together 5 days or 4 days or whatever you're scheduled for, right? So
Right.
That makes a lot more sense to me. I assume that at some point in time you get to the point where you become the nursing home, the senior community that everybody wants to work for, and that recruiting always takes time, but it must get a lot easier as you start building this reputation.
It does. I think the reputation of the community and all of our communities, when we're new to it, that healthcare world is really small.
Yeah.
And, so it's like, prove it when we come in and mark, oh, that sounds good. That might sound too good to be true. But then once word gets out, no, it actually happens. No, we get paid every week. Hey, this happened. Like, we have found some of our communities have been much easier to backfill positions when they do come open.
Yeah.
I also think it attracts really good DONs and administrators who want to have those tools to attract staff.
So I guess here's the thing that I really struggle with is why doesn't everybody do this? Because it sort of seems like it's sort of a no-brainer. You have any thoughts on that?
Well, I think for many reasons, right? I mean, it's weekly pay and the shift differential. How do you monitor the perfect attendance? Is it being captured correctly? So there's some logistical items. It's a cash flow constraint at times, right? A lot of people also believe in the shift differential route as well, to be able to attract people to a certain shift. Versus we're really focused on behavior incentive there versus the shift focus. That's why we call it our advanced edge, EDGE, because not everyone does it, and we think it makes a lot of sense. You got to keep momentum. If you're giving it to 100% people all the time and not tracking it, it becomes something unsustainable. So you've got to make sure that you're being consistent in your enforcement.
So, do you have any? So far, you've told all these great stories. Do you have any failure stories? Something you tried and didn't work?
Oh, sure. I mean, there are things that we do every day. Whether simple things for when we come into a new community and we're told, you should have kept the old name. Like, this matters here. And, those types of things to, hey, we come into a market and we really believe that we're going to be able to, eliminate agency, and we miss our deadline. We're not able to do it in time, in the 90 days, or, we struggle with, census in a certain building, or the clinical turnaround of a building is just taking longer than you think. I would say more days than not I fail, but I think how our team responds is what I'm really proud of. But no, we have our own failures and struggles every day. Regulatory consistency and changing culture takes time, and it's difficult. So
how do you go about propagating your culture from your C-suite down to your regionals and to your buildings, and then teaching your administrators, your executive directors to propagate it down to the front line?
Yeah, we try and live out that culture through very intentional efforts, whether it's weekly meetings with our regional staff where we're reinforcing policy, procedure, just the culture, getting people together in person. I think really matters to being able to communicate culture. We pulled all our administrators and DONs together. We did our milestone celebration, pulled in the whole company annually, all the DONs, EDs. We get together, share some food, and we do some education sessions on what we think are core culture programs, whether it's your morning meeting, your 9 clinical systems, a quick 72-hour new admission care plan. And then we do some fun excursions, whether it was fly fishing or visiting the Biltmore. We went to Asheville and taking a tour. We did those things, pull people together. We have, pretty routine meetings with our regions. And then I personally pulled together all the VPs within the company once a month. And we have a very goal-oriented discussion that we call Quest, where we go through each and every department And so we're not creating silos. We're having collaborative communication about our goals, and it matches our journey theme. So a quest is a goal-oriented journey. So we're trying to focus month over month. How are we hitting those goals? How are we doing? The first thing I train on, I personally go to new ED and DNS training, and I train on our customer service program. I don't train on how to read the P&L or what we're going to do with occupancy or how to do the labor report, or, we don't focus on that, because I believe if you do the right thing at the bedside, take care of the resident, document appropriately, the results are going to follow. These are people's lives. How do we enhance their experience? So, we talked about some of the strategies of the care team members, but that's how we're speaking on day one with intentional culture to our leaders, so they know what's important and why we're doing this.
So I was all ready to wrap up, and now you took me down a path. I've got to ask you one more question talk to me about customer service and your philosophy, how you teach it, what it looks like from a practical standpoint.
Well, from a practical standpoint, that customer service, I want to put in a process, right? How do we ensure that routinely we're talking to every resident, and at what time frame? How are we making sure we're connecting with those family members? How do we look at that first impression when someone's moving into our location and creating some checklists? And then within 72 hours, how are we sitting down and reviewing that plan of care and learning about the resident and their life and their goals? And how can we assist that and be a resident advocate through their stay, through their time with Journey? So we focus that. We have a whole program. We call it the Care Compass program. So we focus on that. It's the number one program we train. I personally train on it so that we ingrain it in day one. We have a video about it that's played during general orientation at all the location levels, because I'm not able to be at every new hire orientation in 6 states. So we do that. So we start at day one, very intentional, and then our visits from our regional team ensure that kind of culture, that kind of, customer service experience is happening. And then we offer the 24-hour hotline for when we do have failures, that they can reach out. They can reach out anonymously, and we're going to follow up and be very responsive to those types of concerns.
Cool. Bernie, this has been an amazing conversation. I appreciate your passion. One of the things at Foresight we talk about, it's part of our culture, is that our goal is to help leaders create cultures where people love coming to work every day. And when you do that, you change the world for the team members themselves, for residents, for their families, and I think you just make the world a better place. And so I really, really appreciate that a lot. And I appreciate your sharing.
Well, I appreciate being invited, Steve, and Foresight Senior Living, and just putting this on, and your endless support of senior care and those caregivers. I just think that our industry doesn't get enough positive press out there. And there, for every bad thing you read in a newspaper, there are 1,000 things that went really, really right that day at that building. And how do we celebrate that? And so your support of that, just having me on, we had a great discussion in Phoenix, now being able to continue it and share it with your LinkedIn community, so that we can continue to talk about the positive things that happen in senior care throughout the country. So really appreciate the time today and all the support of the profession, Steve.
Great. Thank you very much. Hang on after we're off the air for just a minute.